Well, first of all, Glenda, thank you so much. This is, again, an extraordinary time to be together. Tony, I've always loved Blue Zones, quoted it quite often, and been mesmerized by, in fact, your story and Dan's research. Turns out that Access Circles, which is a social network that was created actually here in Aspen with Glenda's help 9 years ago, probably is a malai, although that was a term I didn't know. We are a by-invitation network that comes together to actually talk about everything we're talking about today and to focus on our wellness and well-being. So I'm delighted to be here. Also delighted to see Alan. Alan Altman actually was one of our very first speakers, and the topic, in fact, was called Hot Flash. Heidi Houston was in the audience. Heidi was so intrigued that she got together with Alan to make that movie. So we're glad that we spawn things like that. And Isabel, who I'm about to introduce, who I adore, was our speaker last year. And Isabel studies and was trained at Oxford and housed in Oxford, although I think now she's in New York. She studies the bonobo apes in Congo, in the wild. And she studies them because they're playful, and because she's going to share with us how they resolve conflict through play, something that maybe we could learn a lot about. Isabel, I adore you and the work that you do, and thank you so much for coming back to Aspen and being with Glenda.
Well, that's a very moving introduction. I cannot thank you enough. Carly and Glenda, where's Glenda? And Jerry. Yes, and Joseph. Where do we come from? We used to think that the history of human evolution was all about the inevitable ascent of humans, that teleological force, that we were in control, that we wanted to get out of the jungle, that we were man the hunter. But as we learned more, we found that actually the story was a bit different. And it turns out that we were more like man the hunted. Because of this and other forces meant that we actually evolved in small groups. And to know this is very important for all our discussions on social well-being and beyond. Why? Because it established the dynamics with which we function. As social beings, we are an interdependent system. That means that we can no longer be separated. And we are connected through links, and these links are trust. So today, as we know, we face a crisis of trust, whether it's in the small dyadic unit, I trust within a relationship, trust within families, within and between institutions, within countries, and so on. And why do we care? We care for many reasons. But just in case you needed convincing, we have very good evidence that shows how trust is a predictor of the quality of social relationships, of the development of countries, and that was a surprise perhaps, and of course, of personal happiness. So we have a problem, but problems thankfully have roots. And that's my own bias. If problems have roots, I always want to dig deeper. And so why not dig deeper into the roots of trust? So how do we do that? Well, again, we ask this question to understand ourselves, and like, where do we come from? What's our history? And in a nutshell, the news is that you're an animal. Yeah, and of course, she's an animal. And why are you laughing? Wrong person. I think he is an animal for sure. We have established that. For her, I meant it as a compliment. Okay? But what does this mean? You are a great ape with a fantastic history, and deep history matters. Okay? And of course, these are our immediate family tree. This is the best example of type specimen for human that I could find. And that's because I find bonobos also so beautiful. So just notice there that we have what's called in evolutionary biology a clade, i.e. that bonobos, chimpanzees, and humans are forming a group. That means that your living closest relatives, i.e. the ones that are alive, not the ones that are dead because they are extinct and we cannot study social behavior in fossils, are chimpanzees, are bonobos. You're equally closely related to them. You do not come from them. They are your cousins. In the same way that you have cousins and you have a grandparent, i.e. that you share traits, but you do not descend from them. You are not descended from apes. You are a great ape. And so as a great ape, this has several implications, but for the purpose of this talk, means that you are a highly social being. Okay, you're wired to belong, you're wired for relationship. Humans are relational beings, and in terms of deep wellness, this is crucial. So asking then the question, what about trust in our wider family? How does the family do the issue of trust? Well, let's look at our forgotten cousins, bonobos. Bonobos are peaceful, cohesive, matriarchal. They're also famous for having sex in many different positions, gender and age combinations. And in contrast to our other cousins who are not so sexual, they're also less aggressive. So chimpanzees form strong relationships, but in chimpanzees, lethal aggression is actually not unheard of. There's infanticide and there's lethal aggression of other individuals especially when meeting other groups, i.e. in other words, chimpanzees are xenophobes. So this is a picture of an intergroup attack where males are attacking. They always are very good with numbers, so they typically, if you have 4 or 5 and they see one individual, they will go and they will kill him. And so this means that bonobos have solved a problem that neither humans or chimpanzees, for the matter, have solved, which is a simple problem, if you think about it, that of living without fear of being killed by a conspecific. And I think in terms of quality of life, just the basics of living without fear of being killed by a member of your own species counts. Right? Just keeping it simple, no? So where do these guys live? Where do they live? How can we learn more from them? Well, that's a slight logistical issue because they have this annoying habit of not living in the Caribbean, but actually just living south of the River Congo in what was ex-Zaire Democratic Republic of Congo, which of course poses logistical issues of studying large animals in the wild in tropical jungles, but also the slight issue that Congo has a very, very horrible political history, and you're literally going into the heart of darkness, a country that is ravaged by war. And this, I don't know if you can see, do I have a light there? Yeah, so that's the River Congo there. So all these areas where bonobos live, and that red dot is the field site where I work. And this is how the habitat looks like. So you can see that, first of all, you need to find them, but that's another issue. And I was very lucky to work in what is probably the best site for studying wild bonobos in the world, because it was established in the mid-70s, which means that we know the histories of these guys, right? So for a long time, we know who has been born from whom and what happened, so we can understand their social life at different levels. They are wild, but they're habituated. That means that I can recognize Glenda and Jerry any other day, which is crucial for studying social interactions. It's very difficult to have those conditions in nature. And so I want to ask a question. Who here knew of bonobos as the sexy apes? Yeah, that's my Aspen audience. But I want to show you data today that actually hopefully puts things in perspective. Yeah, you will probably have heard this quote from Franz Eval. Chimpanzees resolve sexual issues with power. Bonobos resolve power issues with sex, right? And this is true, is one of the key differentiating features from bonobos. But actually, I took the data of how many times do bonobos have sex and with whom, and I compared it with how many times bonobos play with others and with whom. And let's see what happens. That's called the social interaction network. So let's compare it. So this is the interaction network of sex. Each node is an individual. Who has sex with whom? And you go, oh my God, what's going on in this community? Yes. So clearly, there's lots of stuff going on here, so they are sexually promiscuous. But now let's look at play. They are much more playfully promiscuous than they are sexually promiscuous. Bonobos play more often, play with more people, play in different ways, more people, primatologists, individuals, right? Than they have sex. Play is a pervasive experience in the social life of bonobos. Social joy, in other words, is part and parcel of their life. So in starting to understand how do these guys do this society in which, despite having unrelated females, but they form really strong coalitions, and they do not kill each other despite them as being very strong, there's something that social joy is doing, okay? And so, play. What is play? What's the key spirit of play? I think we all know it when we see it. So let's see it. Yeah. In case you didn't know what play was, in an Aspen audience, I thought that we don't have that problem here, right? But we all know when we feel that way. When we don't just want to be alive, we want to live. We want to fill the world with the same excitement, to approach the world. For an organism to solve the problem of wanting to interact is not a superficial problem. Play is kind of an engine that makes you want to interact with the world, whether it's physical or social. So it's this engine of engagement, right? So how does it look in bonobos? Well, let's look at laughter. Bonobos actually laugh. I've heard cultural anthropologists say, one of the traits of human uniqueness is that humans only laugh. I'm like, let's be empirical about it and watch this video.
A little volunteer. And in the name of science, we're going to tickle him. See that? Scientists have only recently discovered that laughter is not unique to humans.
I can't help laughing.
Just like us, for bonobos, laughter is a form of communication.
And what laughter is doing, it's a signal that tells other individuals, I want to continue playing with you. I want to continue interacting with you. In humans, for example, conversations that have laughter last longer. If we share a bout of laughter, we feel bonded, we feel relaxed. It really is a booster to that internal motivation, like, yeah, this is wonderful, let's keep doing it.
Look at what happens now.
Play is a safe way to test the boundaries of a relationship, and that helps to build an incredibly tolerant society.
They steal something.
Wait, boisterous play. Juvenile! Oh my God!
Camera guy.
We lost the boom. Naughty bonobo!
You know that fluffy thing of the sound? Poor sound guy, they were always stealing it. It was funny. This one, by the way, I should have said, this was not filmed in the wild. This is in Congo, but outside Kinshasa, with bonobos they're orphan bonobos. So these guys actually are very, very traumatized. They've been taken from their moms. The moms have been killed, and they're brought, and they're rehabilitated through play. So that is, of course, another story about like the deep, deep health aspect of play, but that's why we're able to tickle them and do that. So yes, laughter and play, they're wonderful things. And they involve necessarily taking risks. Bo was talking about uncertainty. Uncertainty is stressful. Play is this kind of weird niche in which evolution said, there will be one space in which you will not be scared of uncertainty. You'll be so weird that you will actually find uncertainty fun. You go, oh, I don't know what the end of the game is. Oh, I actually think that's quite fun. Not knowing becomes fun. Uncertainty becomes fun in play. And it's also true the other way around. For something to be fun, so if you're designing whether it's an event, a joke, a game, you need to have uncertainty. They cannot be fun without a level of unpredictability, which now in our society we're so afraid of health and safety becomes an issue because clean fun is kind of boring. But on the other hand, it is true. one person laughing. I'm not going to ask why. It is a very sophisticated and complex behavior because it requires a fine balance between something that is actually still fun and a little bit dangerous, but not too dangerous. Why? Because fear kills play. Fear and stress kill play, whether it's in a boardroom, in an ideas generation session, in a school, or in the wild. And you see that across the board. So of course, chronic stress is an issue, whether it's in schools or with adults. It's an issue not only because it kills play in the moment, but also because our capacity for lifelong learning and neurogenesis becomes atrophied with chronic stress. So I really think we have to pay very close attention to the conditions of deep learning and deep learning and deep health in that sense. And so, how do bonobos do it? How do bonobos deal with this problem? Because of course they live in the wild, and the wild has many risks, including from others. They build rituals of trust. Rituals of trust means that this doesn't happen all the time, but they're safeguarded spaces where they do certain things that build trust and at the same time require trust. So for example, look at these two pictures. You see that they are two adults and they're holding little ones. But the key thing to notice here is that, you remember Cliffhanger? Yeah, the horrid scene where they're holding to each other like that. They don't do Cliffhanger. They do I hold you, which means that I can let go at any time. So opposite from Cliffhanger, the adult here, the strong individual, has the power and could let go, but doesn't. And weirdly, the little guy chooses that and chooses that consistently, and then on top of that finds it fun. So you go, why would you voluntarily expose yourself to a situation of such risk? These guys can be 5, 10, 15, 20 meters up. So of course you're completely surrendering. Well, this happens for animals, to do that, they have a trick, and we do it as well, which is called self-handicapping. So anyone who has played with a kid, you know what self-handicapping means. You are fighting, but of course you play fight. You don't go like, otherwise, if you strike with all your strength, kind of the game ends pretty quickly, right? So to learn to play means to regulate your own strength, right? Don't use all your power. And animals do this in a very sophisticated way. So I'll show you a fantastic example with dogs, because to me it's so clear. So I'll show you a wolf dog playing with a chihuahua, right? And the potential for injury is quite obvious. See what happens. Can we have noise? It's so little. So he's careful. You see, he's restraining. But sometimes mistakes happen. Mistake. I'm sorry. In play, I'm sorry. And keep playing. Yeah? See? So mammals have these rules. We see the roots of moral rules in play, in that, okay, I'm sorry, we understand. In play, we do not injure each other. This is why, for those of you who watch Game of Thrones, the Red Wedding was so much more shocking than the battle scenes, right? Because the wedding is a play-safe scene. You do not kill people in weddings, guys. Here, you do not. So in the battle, it's different, right? So rituals of trust are everywhere, right? And of course, we have our own rituals of trust. For bonobos, let me show you this video. It's not just females who do it. This is an old male, actually. And you see that there's another guy who wants to interfere. I want you to notice he's laughing. See the little guy there? He's an open mouth. So weirdly, he finds that fun. Why do you find putting yourself in a position of vulnerability fun? Let me tell you a secret. It's fun, right? But we will only do that under certain circumstances. So social play is characterized by dynamics of risk-taking and trust. Risk-taking and trust and vulnerability, of course. And how much do you push it? It's all about how much do you push it? Well, let's go back to chimps. This is a scene what I was telling you about of the intergroup killings in chimpanzees. They not only kill, but they also do genital mutilation. So there's something about not just killing somebody, but they're taking the testicles out. So of course, if I ask you, what's the most vulnerable part of the male anatomy? Now you wouldn't tell me the ego, right? I hope you'd say the genitals. And so with that in mind, see what happens in contrast in bonobos. So this is a very bad idea. You have a male in the front, a female in the back, and she literally has him by the tail. Yes, by the balls, let's say it in English, right? So it requires a lot of trust to do this. you can see there. Right. And they keep going and going, and he finds it actually very fun. Yes. And so bonobos push these risks. And I want to finish with saying, okay, it's very fun. We love the ball game, right? But the ball game has a strong point, right? That you need conditions for that to happen, right? So going back to the big picture is that I think we really need to take into account our deep history. We're so obsessed with technology, with designing for the changing human. What will we augment or not? We also need to remember that there's the part of us that is the unchanging human. And what parts of us will still require trust and love and bonding and social and importance of social fabrics in the future, right? So just with that, I think that remember that for a healthy social animal, whether you're raising kids, and I mean for any age, we have to bear in mind and create spaces for creative freedom where we will make mistakes, it's risky, and rituals of trust. And remember that the price to pay is risk, and that's okay. So thank you so much.